What's going on, Illumineers, and welcome back to the madness. Today's video, we're gonna call it the SteelSong Guide Part 2.5. We're going a little bit backwards, but the point of this video is we now have two DLCs for us to look at, a bunch of lists that did really, really well to show us that SteelSong is still alive, it's still kicking, it's still doing all the great things that it's doing. So this is just looking at all of the lists that made day 2 of DLC Birmingham and DLC Las Vegas. And we're going to kind of dissect some of the interesting things about each build, and at the very end we're going to talk about some takeaways that we see with how the meta's shifting, but also that we see from the list and what they're doing, and then maybe how you might tech for your local meta. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and with that, let's jump into it because we had two SteelSong lists that made top cut, or sorry, that made top 16. And the first one, and I watched this live stream like 15 times to try and get his name right, and I still don't. We'll just call him Wafo-Tapa. And man, I'm so sorry. I know that's wrong. But I'm sorry. I'm not gonna butcher your first name. But this is our gentleman. He placed the best, I believe, out of all the Steel Song players. Um, I know him and the next gentleman were like two placings away. But when we look at this, uh, these notes right here, it's mostly highlighting his last match. His last match was against Green Purple, and it was live streamed for the Birmingham live stream. So I definitely recommend you guys go check it out because he didn't have a good hand in either game, but he still did really well. It was only two matches. Green Purple took it because Green Purple just had some really good hands with the two cost Ursulas and everything. So you could just see how he navigated with a pretty suboptimal hand. But when we look at this, we got the four Smees, the three bare necessities. I'd imagine that he went that route because with three bare necessities and four Pete's, you can really lay it on hard with or against red blue. You can start going wide. You can go Cindy into Smee or Piglet into a Pete, and then lay down a bare necessities. Um, and that bare necessities is going to let you rip something, and then Pete's going to take away a one jump or something in their hand. So just a lot of options there. You have your four areas, your four Naveen's. One thing I really liked about this list is the four Zeus's. So the odds are he's always going to have something to be able to sing with Naveen. One thing to note, though, you'll see that there's no Ursula. So his comeback measure for the mirror is going to be the three bare necessities and the four Naveen's. And don't underestimate, you don't see a lot of people talking about this, but bare necessities is an amazing, amazing on the play and on the draw card into the SteelSong mirror because you could play nothing on turn one, then turn two, sing bare necessities, and hit, something they really needed. You could hit their let the storm rage on, and or even their wheel because you have more cards in your hand. So you have more ability to kind of control the game at that point. So bare necessities just lets you do that. It lets you see their hand. It lets you see and all that knowledge there. So we got the three Lawrences, three Cindy's. So he's really hoping to have a Cindy live, and then he can play Big Cindy to shift it. You will see in this match over here, the Big Cindy hurt a lot. um, he was at 15, I believe, and then he top decked a Big Cindy, and then top decked a whole new world, and he was only on 6 ink, so he was in a tough place at that point. But yeah, really nice list. I love seeing four Zeuses. I'm a huge Zeus fan. But yeah, good job, man. Really close games in game two as well. So our next gentleman to take top 16, these both were in Birmingham, was Francis Gutierrez. Um, One thing to note, the first thing I have on there is you're going to see a lot of builds actually that go pretty top heavy. Here we have two Tinkerbells, two Cindy's, and then our four Robin Hoods. Um, but also, again, three bare necessities. So same thing I said earlier, but this time he went down to three Pete's instead of four Pete's. Bare necessities is kind of doing a lot of the same stuff. Uh, it does the same stuff just differently. Of course, Bare Necessities can't sing you a song, but you can play it on turn 2 against the mirror. It can rip things out of their hand like Fishbone Quill. But we will see the 3 lanterns coming back. So one thing to note between both of these builds is you'll see no daisies, right? No daisy ducks. And a lot of people, myself included, after I lost to Red Blue twice on Saturday, is that I was like, God, we have to have Daisy Duck, and these two gentlemen proved that you don't. The only two gentlemen to place top 16, they didn't have Daisy Duck. That being said, Francis did lose to Red Blue in top 16, and I don't know what either one of their matchups were on day 1 or their top 64 matchup. So they could have dodged Red Blue all day, and if they did, then you don't need Daisy Duck if you're dodging Red Blue all day. But yeah, if you guys do see this video, which would be crazy if you did, we'd love to know. Let me know in the comments, or hit me up on Discord, what your matchups were. But yeah, we got the 3 Smees, the 2 Piglets. Um, I'm after this weekend, I'm a huge fan of 4 Smees, but 3 is also really good. We got the 1 World's Greatest Criminal Mind, really good for all the Cindy's that you're seeing, and the SteelSong mirrors, really good for big Sizus, Tamatoas, even a Maui. It's just an easy way to clear a Maui. Even in red purple, it's an easy way to clear the hand Sizu. So, and then of course the 4 Naveen's, which is great with 3 lanterns because it's a turn 3 shift target essentially. With the lantern being your baby shift and the Naveen being your big boy shift, if you look at it that way. But yeah, good job, gentlemen. Way to bring it top 16. That's awesome. Way to go, guys. So this is one of the more spicy lists of the whole weekend. We got Boomie Jr. here, as he goes by on Discord, running a really heavy aggro list. We got the 4 Daisies, 4 Piglets, 4 Smees, 2 Binjas, 4 Lawrences, and right here we have the 4 Svens. And if you don't know what Sven does, when you play Sven, you know what? Let's just double check because I believe it's when you play, but let's yep, when you play this character, you may ready chosen character. So so just a really spicy card here because you quest with any of these guys that are questing for 2 or whatnot, and then you play Sven, and now they're safe for a turn. They have to have a song or something. So that's just a really, and it quests for 2, and that's a common thing. If you look at, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then kind of 10 cards that are questing for 2. So one thing to note though, there's only 12 songs, so there's no Ariel here because Ariel is most likely going to whiff. So another thing is he has the Shift Kita package, and this serves 2 purposes. The Shift Kita package lets you have another shift target for a whole new world on turn 3 or whatnot, but also it lets you play Kita, and then they have almost nothing in their deck for most players that can take out anything on your field. Even a Fox can no longer take anything out on your side of the field. A Maui can take out a lot of it, but that's kind of about it. And if you didn't know, Kita is the shift target that shifts onto Kita. This Kita has Bodyguard. This one gives -3 to everything until the start of your next turn. Um, Let me move my face out of here really quick. He had one red blue matchup that he went 2-0 against. This was round 7, I believe, round 7 or 8. So what this tells us is that this deck is really good into red blue because the people that are playing red blue that are making it to the higher rounds, like that 7 or 8, 9, are really good red blue players because they've beat everything else and they've just done really well, typically really good. So this deck doing well against it going 2-0 is really big. And then in top 32, he did lose to green purple. So with that being said, game 1, he ended up with 3 whole new worlds in his hand that he couldn't play. So he kind of got hit by the only deck that beats SteelSong is SteelSong kind of thing, where it just bricks sometimes. But I was talking to him. Some things he's considering is the Hercules shift line. The Hercules shift line. This guy he's a 6/3/2, resist +2, shift for 4. that just makes it, he's really hard to kill, right? That resist 2 is just really difficult. And then, of course, this is something I suggested because he was looking at getting rid of the Kita shift line. So an option would be the Mickey Mouse shift line because it has resist 1. So the big Mickey is just really sticky. He's a 3-4-2, so just really hard to get rid of for green steel because they have to have like the Storm Rage on and a really big board because they don't run Zeus and then let the Storm Rage on when it kill it. So sorry, they have to have Strength of a Raging Fire and a really big board. So just another option. I'm not saying great, but when you're looking at replacing possibly Kita, just 2 different shift lines. He also talked about possibly Rockstar Stitch for more card draw. But yeah, good job, man. Way to bring it with a spicy list that I'm sure no one was expecting. Next, we have Alex Johnson in top 32. One thing, another top heavy, we got 3 Cindy's, 1 Tinkerbell, and 2 Lanterns. So going a little bit lower on the Lanterns, odds are you still see it most of the time, especially if you can get off a wheel, you're definitely going to see it. I would really I would love to have a conversation with him with the one grab your swords. I'm personally not a big fan of grab your swords because it's so bad into so many matchups, but the ones it's good in is amazing. So when I see only one, I wonder if it's really worth it because the statistically it's going to be really hard to see. So I wonder if he'd be more apt to take out one world's greatest to do grab your sword because now with the meta, you might want to see more grab your swords than world's greatest, anyways. But one day maybe I'll get a hold of them, and or maybe you'll see this video. But moving on, um, for Pete's, just your normal. Those are kind of the big things on this list. I say this probably completely runs over Grab Your Swords because he does have the Tinkerbell Green Steel. He does have the Tinkerbell. He does have the Grab Your Swords, which is going to be really strong into that. The 4 Pete's is really strong into Green Steel as well. The Smees as well. So just a list that probably does pretty good into it. Um, so yeah, I like it. Moving on, we got Kenny Weinstein Weinstein, Subby, and this is another low to the ground aggro build. This isn't as full aggro as Boomie, but we still see 4 daisies, 4 Smees, 4 piglets. Okay, so he's still trying to get under that red blue, just go really, really hard. And then he's got Ariel plus Naveen combo here that we've seen in a lot of these lists, right? Like we see Ariel Naveen there, we see no Ariel here, of course. But the point is, like Ariel and Naveen is a popular combo that you're going to see across these lists. But he's just focusing, let me go super hard, super low to the ground early and try and beat them. And then I have my late game stuff, my comeback stuff to be able to win the game. The one bare necessities coming in. So yeah, it's just another list. I am curious how because with green steel getting popular, I imagine I imagine Daisy and Piglet almost getting worse unless you go really, really hard like this because Red Blue is going to start running more brawls again. Most of the decks only ran 3, but I imagine they go to 4 now because of Green Steel to control the Diablo and to control the Ursula. So we'll see what happens though. So next we have Ben Fishman, otherwise known as Manfish. And here we've got, we cut the piglets completely. We went 4 Smees, 3 Pete's again. So you won't see a single list that went below 3, but you see quite a few that are running 3. Um, we got the heavier package. We got 4, 2 Tinkerbell, 2 Cinderella, 1 World's Greatest instead of a Bare Necessities. And I imagine these guys, they're not running World's Greatest for Red Blue. They're running World's Greatest for the SteelSong Mirror. Because if they're playing a Big Sizu or a Tamatoa, you've probably already lost the game, and World's Greatest isn't going to help you. Um, but it is a card that could help you and help you come back. So 3 Lawrences for Red Blue. And it's just great into everything. You can swing into everything. It still has 4 willpower, so it's a great Rapunzel target. A quest for 2. And it kills just about anything as a 4 attack, 4 willpower. So just a great card, really good into red blue that continues to get more popular. Zachary Bishop Stone or Launch Site with top 64. You see a lot more coming in this list. We got, of course, the 3 Lanterns going into the 2 Cindy's and 2 Tinkerbells. Only 3 Naveen's here, which makes that shift line, the Lantern Naveen shift line, a little bit harder, but it's still something that's very possible. It's still going to be great for on the draw, even better on the play. 3 Piglets, 3 Smees, kind of already talked about that as far as whether you wanted to go 2 Piglets, 4 Smees, that line. But one thing to note here is we do have the daisies as well. So we have the daisies for early game, but we also have the lanterns for, early game and late game, because you can very easily go Cindy on turn 1, lantern on turn 2 into a daisy. And that's a whole lot because on turn 3 you can now play Naveen into Whole New World. You can play Naveen into a Zeus. You could even drop, God, you could drop 3 1 drops or a Piglet and a 1 drop. There's just so many options that Lantern gives you, and that's why I'm a big fan of it, because it just opens up so many abilities. And then of course we have 3 Peats again. So, but this time 3 Peats with no bare necessities. So that's important to note as well. I don't know, if you decide to go 3 Peats, just be aware that there's a good chance we see red blue um, go back to heavier B prep builds because of green steel getting popular. Because that green steel, green purple, they're looking to get him going wide. Of course, your Ursulas can take your B preps, but at the same time, it's just a really good top deck. But maybe not because Big Sisu still answers a lot of green steel stuff. It doesn't answer, of course, the beasts and everything, but your Medusas will. So maybe they don't. Ah, that's for Sailor to decide. So all right. So moving on to another top 64, we have Alex or WoahChuck, aka Mr. Harp Song, the gentleman that made harp songs popular last set. He's coming in hard with 4 Daisies, 4 Smees, 4 Ursulas, and of course the 4 Gastons. And one thing to note about WoahChuck's view on Gaston is WoahChuck loves consistency. And if there's one thing to be said about him is he's extremely consistent. He's done I believe he's done 3 challenges and he's placed day 2 in all 3 of them. And I believe he's placed top 16 in 2 of them. I'm not sure. I think it's 2. It's at least one. But so he's been consistent, and that's when you look at this build. This is an extremely consistent build. Like he's saying, like the great plays with this is something you could go Daisy into Ursula or Smee. You can go Daisy into Ursula to protect your Daisy, and then you can go Gaston, and then turn 4 you can go Ariel to dig for your Whole New World to sing with Gaston. So now you get to refill your hand immediately. And you don't even have to go that route though. If you already have a Whole New World in hand, you can go Gaston on 3 and then Whole New World. Yeah. And the big thing is it's really hard to get rid of Gaston that early. Like I don't know if there's a way that anyone can, because I guess if you're on the draw, they could go Ursula turn 3, the Diablo Ursula let the storm rage on kind of thing, but that's really hard to do. So it's just really consistent. The 4 Ursulas for on the draw into SteelSong. Um, Even on the play, the 4 Ursulas is really good. No bare necessities. We see the one world's greatest criminal mind for Cinderella. And then, of course, my favorite. I love Chinpo. This guy is such a monster. You lay him down, and Maui can't get him. Cinderella can't get your characters. Maui can't get your characters. Fox can't get your characters. You get the point. Just a really strong character. So good job, man. Way to be consistent. Way to represent. So our next list is Chris Oyola. um, excuse me. I butchered that. I'm sorry, man. But AKA Perdita Song. And I call him this because he what he's doing with this is exactly, or I call him Perdita Song because he went to Dallas Fort Worth and took top four with Perdita. And he came in and said, "Look at this cool card that no one else is playing, and look what it can do for me." And so when we look at this, there's no Perdita, of course, but one thing we see is a heavy low to the ground, three piglets, four Smees, three daisies, and then we see the four Lawrences. Um, Big fan, of course, of the Lawrences. Right now, he's running the one Naveen, but it looked like when I was looking at 20 lore that he may drop this. Um, and he even looked at something because instead of the Naveen, you can just go you can play a Lawrence on turn four. You can play a Lawrence and a Daisy. Like playing that three drop and a one drop might be better than playing a four drop on Inkable that you don't want to top deck. So maybe even replace it for a Gaston for more ability to play a whole new world. And here we see the four or the one bare necessities as well, the two Cindy's. So good job, man. Way to represent again and getting to top 64. So we're at the end. Let me go ahead and move my face out of the way here. Um, so, what are some of the takeaways? SteelSong is far from dead. It's not going anywhere. It's not dead. It's not buried. It's not in a bad place. It's not even in a rough place. It is a deck that is still extremely good, and it has one matchup that it's not favored into, and that'd be red blue. So, SteelSong going nowhere. So don't be on the whole doom and gloom and think that way. And and honestly, if you switch off of it, sweet. That means less mirrors, and I hate the mirror. So it could still be red blue. You just have to build for it, right? I think when we look at it, maybe you throw in some Benjas to take out the Fishbone at Quest for Two, which is really good. Maybe you throw in the Blues, the Bodyguard, that when this character is banished, you gain two lore. Um, and if they don't want to banish it, you quest for one. Or you play it in Bodyguard, and now your piglets and stuff are protected from their Mauis. So that could be really mess things up. So instead of getting only three lore with Piglet, you now get six lore with Piglet, plus two lore from Baloo. Just like that, you're at eight lore. So Baloo could be another option. And maybe we see a comeback of Pride Lands or Rapunzel's Tower. Pride Land gives you extra, that one lore per turn, but it gives you extra defense or willpower to help you into the SteelSong mirrors. It protects you even more against green steel if you're really worried about that. And green purple is going to have a hard time handling it because they're trying to use their foxes and crabs and stuff to attack your stuff, but Pride Lands makes that difficult. Um, so maybe that comes back. For I have SteelSong as bothersome, but what it should say is green steel is bothersome. You have to understand that the green steel matchup is really only bad in the very beginning, and they have to have very specific cards. Like they have to have the two cost Ursula, and they have to have the three cost Ursula. And when they two cost Ursula, they need to get your only damage song. Like if you have a strength, then you're gonna be. If you have two strengths, then you're gonna be okay because you're gonna be able to remove that Ursula, that three cost Ursula, and that's pretty much good game. There's not a lot they can do about it at that point. You just go super wide, and they have no way to deal with it. And it's kind of the same way you beat green purple. Just go wider than them, and then they just kind of lose. The other thing is the green steel, for them to high roll, they require a very specific list. They need the turn one Diablo into Ursula, into Shift Diablo, into three cost Ursula, and then use the Diablo to sing Let the Storm Rage on. So they need 9 cards for their best high roll when they've only drawn 10. And my math may be off, so let me know in the comments if I'm just really bad at math. But that's a lot. And for them to be able to do that, it's going to be really hard for them to do that. And that's assuming that you haven't used bare necessities to dig out their one Let the Storm Rage on or whatever it may be. So just keep in mind that into green steel, your Peets are really strong. A Peet on turn going into their turn 3 can just demolish their whole game plan. Your Peet's super strong. Your bare necessities is way strong. So keep that in mind. Green steel is not something that we need to be super afraid of. I'd wager it's very 50-50. Um, and you should be fine. The only thing you really need to worry about is, of course, red blue. But the last thing that I want to say before we sign off Set champs that we're getting ready for that start next week are not DLCs. You should have an idea at least what 80% of your field is going to be into set champs. Um, that means that if you have a whole lot of people playing red blue, then maybe you tech for red blue. Maybe you go a little bit more aggro, a little bit heavier on the aggro side. If they're running not everybody is on the side of, beep or a bunch of scars and stuff. So maybe you need to go for Pete's. If you're seeing a lot of green purple, tech for green purple, like you get it. Tech for what your meta is. Do not take a net deck from the DLCs that did really well there and then say, okay, this will do really well at my set champs. Well, it's not going to do really well for your set champs if it's not like if all of a sudden you get there and you don't have the cards you need for your set champs. Like you have all the power to tech your deck the way you need to for your set champs. So keep that in mind. One of the cards I have up here is Ursula. If you're really worried about Green Steel or SteelSong, maybe you tech in an Ursula. It's a 2/4 that quests for 2. And I was going to mute myself, but it's a 2/4 that quests for 2. And when she quests, you get to look at their hand. It's a bare necessities, essentially. And you get to discard a non character card. So maybe you do that, because then on turn 3 you can start digging through their hand. You have to discard a song to do it, but maybe that's worth it if you're already, if you're already on the play and you already have other songs. Um, so just things to remember: tech how you want, because it's your set champs. You know the meta. It's your ball game. And Steel Song, it's already a really good deck. It's really good high roll deck. So just make it even better for what you got. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, we're 27 minutes in. We're going to sign off. Remember, we're trying to be happy and healthy, all right? Whether you're working on mental health or physical health, I promise that as you work on either one or both, then happiness will follow. It's going to happen, and your life will get better, all right? We'll get to do all the things we enjoy because we're happy, because we're healthy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm out. Until next time, Illumineers, have a great day.